What you're about to witness isn't just another news story, it's the moment everything changed in American foreign policy. For years we've watched as America practiced restraint, measured responses, and diplomatic solutions, but something has shifted. The recent airstrikes in Yemen aren't just tactical maneuvers, they represent a fundamental transformation in how America projects power. The world is witnessing a dangerous turning point that few recognize. The sleeping giant hasn't just stirred, it's fully awake now, and the consequences are reverberating across the Middle East. What happened behind closed doors in Washington that triggered this unprecedented response? What invisible red line was finally crossed? And most importantly, what does it mean for you, for global stability, and for the future of warfare? By the end of this video, you'll understand why this moment changes everything, and why what happens next will redefine American power for decades to come. The sky over Yemen's Ras Isa oil port erupted in flames on April 18th. As massive fireballs shot into the night sky, the sound of explosions echoed across the coastline. When the smoke cleared, the devastation was undeniable. 58 dead, 126 wounded, and critical infrastructure reduced to rubble. Satellite images showed oil tanks that had stood for decades vaporized in seconds. Emergency workers who rushed to help became victims themselves. This wasn't a random strike. This was a message written in fire. What I'm about to reveal will change how you understand modern warfare. This wasn't just an airstrike, it was a declaration. A statement that echoed not just in Yemen, but in Tehran, Moscow, and Beijing. The precision, the timing, the targets selected, everything about this campaign speaks volumes about America's new approach. The restraints are off, and the world is about to understand what American power truly means when unleashed without the handcuffs of hesitation. For years, we've watched a pattern. America absorbs provocations, issues warnings, then delivers measured, limited responses, tactical strikes, proportional responses, surgical operations. But something fundamental changed in March 2025. A breaking point was reached that transformed America's entire military posture in the region. The question isn't just why Yemen, it's why now? What invisible line was crossed that turned American patience into American fury? And what comes next in this dangerous new chapter of Middle East conflict? You know that feeling when someone pushes you too far? When each small provocation builds upon the last until something inside you snaps? That moment when patience isn't virtue anymore, it's weakness? That's what happened in the Red Sea. Not once, not twice, but 190 times. That's how many attacks the Houthis launched against international shipping, sinking 2 vessels, seizing another, and killing innocent seafarers who were just doing their jobs, supporting their families, navigating waters that should have been safe. For months, America responded with restraint, diplomatic channels, coalition building, proportional strikes, multi-nation naval patrols, all while commercial vessels burned and global trade suffered, all while insurance rates skyrocketed and shipping companies rerouted around the entire African continent. There's a special kind of anger that builds under restraint. It doesn't dissipate, it concentrates, it hardens, it transforms. Every attack that went unpunished became another brick in a wall of resentment. Every ship targeted became another reason to abandon measured responses. Every sailor endangered became another voice calling for decisive action. The pressure builds slowly, imperceptibly at first, then faster, until the container can no longer hold what's inside, until restraint itself becomes unsustainable. Sometimes the most dangerous response isn't immediate, it's calculated. It waits, it plans, it gathers resources, positions assets, identifies vulnerabilities, and when it finally emerges, it's overwhelming. Not just in force applied, but in message delivered. What changed in Washington wasn't the capability to respond. It was the willingness to unleash America's full power. The breaking point wasn't about a single attack. It was about crossing the threshold where patience transforms into punishment, where measured response gives way to overwhelming force. To understand what's happening, you need to understand the players. The Houthis aren't just rebels in a civil war. They're a proxy force in Iran's regional strategy. A powerful militia that seized Yemen's capital in 2015 and has been fighting a coalition led by Saudi Arabia ever since. When they began targeting ships in October 2023, they claimed solidarity with Palestinians following Hamas attacks on Israel. But this was never just about Gaza. It was about power, control, and testing American resolve. It was about Iran extending its reach across the region through proxies that offer plausible deniability. It was about challenging the international order to see where the breaking points are. With each attack, global commerce felt the squeeze. Insurance rates skyrocketed by 700% in some cases. Shipping companies rerouted vessels around Africa's Cape of Good Hope, adding 2 weeks to delivery times and billions to consumer costs. The pain wasn't just in Yemen. It was in your grocery bill, your gas price, at every cash register across America. It was in delayed medical supplies, semiconductor shipments, and agricultural exports. The Houthis grew bolder with each successful attack. Their weaponry evolved from simple drone boats to sophisticated anti-ship ballistic missiles that can strike targets hundreds of miles away. Their targeting improved. Their operational tempo increased. On March 18, President Trump drew a line. He warned Iran directly that further Houthi attacks would be considered acts of Iranian aggression, not just proxy warfare, but direct confrontation with Tehran. The message was clear, but the warning went unheeded. More ships were targeted, more threats were issued. When warnings go unheeded, consequences don't arrive as threats. They arrive as bombs. Share in the comments if you've seen someone push too far and face consequences they never anticipated. But here's what most analysis misses. What's at stake isn't just shipping lanes or oil prices. It's the entire framework of power in the Middle East. It's about who sets the rules, who enforces them, and who suffers when they're broken. It's about credibility in a region where perception often matters more than reality. The strikes that began on March 15th weren't just retaliatory. They were systematic, methodical, comprehensive. Over 40 air raids targeting sites across Yemen, concentrated in the capital Sana'a and Sada Governorate. Fighter jets from the USS Harry S. Truman. Air Force attack planes launched from regional bases. Armed drones providing persistent surveillance and precision strikes. This wasn't just punishment, it was erasure of capability. The targets tell the story: military headquarters housing Houthi leadership, weapons storage facilities filled with Iranian-supplied missiles, assembly plants where drones were constructed, manufacturing centers producing components for anti-ship weapons, radar installations providing targeting data, command and control nodes coordinating attacks. The US wasn't just sending a message, it was performing surgery, cutting out the Houthis' ability to threaten shipping, not just degrading capability, but dismantling the entire operational infrastructure. Military analysts I've spoken with describe the campaign as comprehensive degradation, a technical term that translates to dismantling an adversary piece by piece, system by system, capability by capability, until what remains lacks the coherence to function effectively. What makes this campaign different is its persistence. These aren't one-off strikes followed by withdrawal. They're sustained pressure, with each day bringing new targets, new explosions, new degradation of Houthi military power. The chess game between America and Iran has entered a new phase, with Yemen as the board. Each strike isn't just about the target hit, it's about the strategic calculation behind it. The message to Iran: your proxies are vulnerable. The signal to China: America can still project overwhelming power. The warning to Russia: your allies in the region cannot protect you. What we're witnessing isn't just airstrikes, it's America rewriting the rules of engagement. Most media coverage focuses on individual strikes, missing the larger pattern. They report casualties, they show explosions, they quote officials, but they miss the strategic transformation unfolding. This isn't about responding to the last attack, it's about preventing the next 50. It's not retribution, it's recalibration of regional power dynamics. Is this just about Yemen, or is there a larger message being sent? The answer becomes clear when you follow the money, follow the munitions, and follow the military positioning across the region. When you understand that Yemen is just one theater in a larger confrontation that stretches from the Mediterranean to the Persian Gulf, the consequences are already visible. According to British sources, Iran has ordered its military personnel to leave Yemen. They're pulling back support for the Houthis, focusing instead on direct threats from the US. Every meeting is dominated by discussions about Trump, one Iranian official reportedly said. This is the storm that changes the landscape permanently. The ripples aren't just in Yemen, they're in Lebanon, where Hezbollah watches carefully, in Gaza, where Hamas recalculates, in Syria, where Iranian proxies reconsider their positions. Despite overwhelming force, Houthi defiance continues. The dozens of airstrikes on Yemen will not deter the Yemeni armed forces, a spokesman declared. But defiance doesn't restore destroyed missile facilities or rebuild shattered radar installations. The humanitarian impact can't be ignored. About 70% of Yemen's imports and 80% of its humanitarian assistance pass through ports like Ras Isa. When superpowers flex, civilians feel the crush of history's weight. The question now isn't whether the campaign continues, it's what form it takes. Will precision strikes give way to broader targeting? Will special forces join the equation? And most importantly, will Iran continue its strategic retreat, or will it find ways to retaliate without leaving fingerprints? We've reached the inflection point. America's restraint has ended and a new doctrine has emerged, one that prioritizes overwhelming force over diplomatic niceties, decisive action over prolonged negotiation. The positioning of B-2 bombers and KC-135 refueling planes at Diego Garcia in the Indian Ocean isn't coincidental. These aren't just military assets, they're statements of intent. The B-2, with its ability to deliver massive ordnance against hardened targets, isn't dispatched for show. It's there because plans exist for its use. The future implications extend beyond Yemen. Watch Iran's nuclear program, watch oil infrastructure in the Gulf, watch shipping through the Strait of Hormuz. These are the pressure points where this new doctrine may next be applied. The world is recalibrating to a reality where American patience has definitive limits, and where crossing those limits triggers not proportional response, but overwhelming force. Comment breaking point if you believe America should continue this approach, or restraint if you think it's gone too far. Your perspective matters in understanding how this new reality is perceived. This isn't just foreign policy analysis, it's understanding the forces that will shape your future. Energy prices, supply chains, regional stability. The ripples from Yemen will reach your doorstep in ways most won't comprehend until it's too late. Subscribe to understand the forces reshaping our world while others remain oblivious. Join a community that sees beyond headlines, that recognizes patterns before they become problems. In my next analysis, I'll reveal how this Yemen strategy connects to America's larger plan for Iran, a strategy few are discussing but everyone will feel. The pressure campaign isn't just about shipping lanes, it's about forcing fundamental changes in Tehran's calculations. The choices made today will echo for generations. Will you understand them as they unfold, or catch up after they've already transformed your world? One final thought: watch oil prices closely in the coming weeks. They tell a story that military communiques never will. The markets understand what many analysts miss. That power isn't measured by what you can destroy, it's measured by what you choose to spare.